Thank you very much, and welcome, Errol. How are you today?
Hey, Hubert. Thank you so much. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Great, thank you very much. I'll try and unpin Alex Blackwood from the board. He's still somehow pinned. So it looks a little curious. But very, very welcome. And it's really great to have an industry retailer perspective. We've covered so far, just for your knowledge, and I could see you were joining at different moments. As we've heard, all our participants were there. We've been touching on private government partnerships. Now it's really, really good to have the retailer's perspective. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First, just let me ask, can you see my presentation? I'm not so used to Zoom, so I just wanted to verify that you can see it.
Absolutely perfect, thank you.
And does it still come up in full screen?
Well, I can see the sort of your slide scroller.
Okay,
you had it there, yeah.
Okay, can you see this well then? Should I get started with this? Does this make sense?
Well, you may switch to present mode on your computer.
Let's check. Sorry for this.
No problem at all.
This is what you get when you work with Teams all day.
Don't worry.
Share screen. Do you know what? I'll just share my desktop and then everybody can see it.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining in today. I am, as the very nice introduction said, Errol Koolmeister, Product Area Lead Engineer for AI Foundation at H&M Group. I'm going to talk about the next step with AI for us at the group level. But first, just let me make a short introduction, because I'm pretty sure everybody knows H&M. And if you don't, then you're probably living under a rock for the last 50 years. But H&M is a global group, so we don't just have the H&M brand. We also have other brands as COS, Monkey, H&M Home, Weekday, Other Stories, Cheap Monday, Arket, and The Found. So we are a global retailer, of course. We exist in 73 markets. We have more than 5,046 stores, and I actually checked this yesterday. We have gone up in number of stores. I would say we haven't shut down that many stores due to COVID. We're still going strong. E-commerce in almost 47 markets, or more than 47 markets. We just opened Australia recently, so now you can shop online even there. We have over 177,000 employees. If you were to count people working in the factories that we cooperate with, H&M actually employs them or put people into work for more than 1 million people across the globe. Our net sales turnover in Swedish kronor was 210 billion. And I'm also very happy to announce that even though we have had a very hard time now in COVID, we actually turned a profit in the third quarter. So we were able to turn things around and we're going strong. So H&M is well suited for the digitalization and the work ahead. Looking at H&M, I'm going to get to this in a moment, but we got started quite late with data and analytics. But I just want to pinpoint that H&M has been quite data-driven ever since the start. Our founder, Erling Persson, founded H&M in 1947 in a small town called Västerås, just outside of Stockholm, Sweden. His idea from the beginning was the mantra, follow the shopping bags. Basically, that meant H&M was never going to take place in a back alley somewhere. It was going to be on the high streets across the world. You were following the shopping bags and you were following the money. There are even rumors in the beginning that Erling Persson sent out people, or even went himself, with a small clicker, counting the number of people that went by the different street locations to be able to determine where should we open the next H&M store. So I like to put this anecdote out there just as a reminder that we've always been data-driven, maybe not just always digitalized data-driven. And as an example, hopefully many of you actually recognize this very nice overview. It's very bright and it's one of the world's most known places. I'm going to give you just a second just to think about, where is this? If you guess Manhattan, I would say you're right. So one of the world's well-known places. Where would you believe that we have our stores? Of course, where the bright lights are. Follow the money and follow the shopping bags. And that's where you're going to find them in New York, Manhattan. So let's talk about AI and let's talk about H&M and AI. We, as I said earlier, got started very late in the digitalization and data game. Even though we opened our first web shop in around the year 2000, which is relatively early, we didn't do much about it. So around 2015, our then CEO, Carl-Johan Persson, the grandson of Erling Persson, our founder, set out on a mission to understand what we were doing with large-scale analytics and AI. The answer was very disappointing. We didn't do anything. So in 2016, we started our first exploratory efforts, which was basically understanding what should we do, the proof of value, proof of concept phase, as I call it, which then were in 2017 as well. Our focus from day one was to get to the value, not to just prove the value, but if there were value, actually put it into production and start scaling it out. So in 2017, we actually deployed some of our first use cases and started to see money back on the bank. Ever since we started, we have been more than cost neutral and actually making money on the AI investments that we're doing. The only way for actually to achieve this was to break out existing structures that were existing in the company. We went fully cloud-based from day one, even though H&M wasn't that cloud-based back then. We had the opportunity to work with external firms that could come in and just put 100 people on solving the problems. We were so successful that in 2018, we were able to establish the first function in H&M in 10 years. And the one before that was sustainability, which gives you a little bit of kind of perspective, because sustainability is one of the key topics for H&M right now. It is so important for us to actually be sustainable. And if we put AI forward as a function, that actually means we're going to put a lot of investment behind that as well. So in 2019, we started taking things over from external consultant and building things up. We wanted to build an AI factory. We spent the better part of 2019 just establishing infrastructure, ways of getting from insight into production in just 3 months. So now in the year 2020, we set up a new strategy. So how do we commoditize AI? Basically, how do we take the insights created in different products, in different use cases, and make them into more of a commodity so we can reuse them? We don't want to reinvent the wheel over and over again. This is a part of our strategy that I'm actually going to deep dive into a little bit later, so that we in 2021 can be seen as a fashion leader when it comes to AI in the major retailers in the world. So a relatively ambitious goal that we have set up for ourselves. If you then were to look into where we are today, I mentioned just briefly that all of the things we are doing are actually delivering value. I just want to take you over some of them. We cover the entire value chain from H&M Group perspective. That means we are involved in the design and buying phase. So we do assortment quantification, which is basically forecasting. So we do large scale forecasting for almost 1 billion garments across the world for our buyers to use when we are predicting how much to buy. And probably in these times, you can imagine how worthless that was just before COVID coming out. But anyway, we were able to adapt based on our structures. And we also do fashion forecasting to support our designers in what type of clothes should they produce, what is a trend coming, and how is that trend going to evolve. We do production, so we have a team called production.ai. They help us when we are negotiating prices and picking the best supplier for different production items. Logistics, so we do allocation to the stores across the world. In the past, it used to be only small, medium, large stores, and they got the same across the globe. This didn't work so well. Well, it worked when you were expanding that. We used to expand 4,000 stores in 20 years, which is, you can just move it to another store if it doesn't sell. These days, we are much more granular. We adopt the content in each store to the market conditions surrounding it. Warehouse moves. We do believe that we will be able to predict, but we will be wrong. And when we're wrong, we need to be able to swiftly move things around our different warehouses so things doesn't run out in southern part of Europe when we have a high demand in northern parts of Europe, for instance. So how do we move between the warehouses in a more predictive way? Our sales period used to be a lot of people sitting around and pretty much guessing. We have a lot of this. Let's put it to 90%. We have a few items here. Let's put it to 10%. Today, we do a large-scale optimization, which has actually proven quite valuable for us. We have clear price path for all the garments that goes out on sale across the globe, which has been a very good initiative for us. And also, we are working quite heavily on the personalization part of things. We have created recommendation engines. We have intent engines. We are completely integrated. Our focus has been on large-scale use cases with high value and feasibility. So before I take the next step, I just want to break things down. And potentially some of you will already know this, but I just want to make a clear distinction around our scaling capabilities. And to do that, I need to explain a few topics for you. So for us, when we talk about AI, it's primarily machine learning that we talk about. And why it's much more complex than traditional software development is because in traditional software development, you want to meet a functional specification. The quality of the things that you write depends only on code, and the software stack is usually quite fixed. When it comes to machine learning, it is not so much about the functional specifications. You'll have your business stakeholder, but it's more about optimizing metrics. In the case of H&M, if we can increase our accuracy with 1%, that's 100 million kroners, just straight off the bat. So you can imagine how much we really want to optimize the metrics. And the quality of the things that we actually do is so much dependent on data and parameter tuning rather than just the code base itself. And the software stack is a combination of several different things. It's about putting many different libraries, models, and algorithms trying to optimize the same task. So you really need to understand the technology behind it. Otherwise, you will never be able to scale. And in my opinion, and where I come from, I'm obsessed with scaling because we don't do this for one market. We do this globally for the entire world. So that means we need to be able to do it for one market and gradually roll it out. And it can't take us 15 years to do so if we were to do it globally. We need a good way of doing it. So we need to understand the technology. So from our perspective, it is not just about the AI. It's about the technology surrounding it. It is really about understanding how you create great technology and understanding that the algorithm part is usually just a small thing in all of this. What we do at H&M is we say for every data scientist we employ, we're going to hire 3 engineers minimum. It is so much backlog of just maintaining it. And it's not fair to the data scientists that we employed to have them write production ready code because that's what we need. In order for us to do this, you need to understand as well what it is you are designing. So a lot of the work when we talked about industrialization in the 2019 year, it was about process mapping. It was about re-engineering, and it was about employing software engineering best practices. And you can hear I'm coming from an engineering background as well, because I'm totally obsessed with these things. It was really about understanding that there are processes that are very heavy, and there are processes that are lightweight. So for instance, in this case, model development is extremely heavy and takes the longest amount of time in all of this. This is where we get the data scientists to actually work on the topics and the exploration part. But this is also where we have to invest the most money. If I want to build a very big neural network on all of our data, can you imagine how expensive that is? If I'm going to do a recommendation engine for 90 million customers that we have right now in our club, can you imagine how big 90 million times 6,000 different garments is? And trying to build a model out of that and fitting that matrix in memory. It takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time to actually process these things. But on the other hand, when I have done that and I want to put it into production, the actual usage of the model is quite lightweight. So I can't have the same infrastructure running on this. This is why some of the key concepts in all of this is around modularization of your code base. It's about separation of the processes that you are creating. And it's also about understanding what it is. Because if you just develop things, it's going to be very hard and it's going to be very messy, especially when you start scaling. It is easy to deploy a small model in an isolated environment. It is extremely hard going global with the same thing. So having outlined that, I think it's just worth highlighting. 2019 was the year when we really set a solid foundation for the next frontier. We have around 10 use cases in production, running, generating value at this stage. But what we also realize is if we want to continue growing, if we want to take our the fight with the digital natives and the tech giant, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Spotify, the Kings, and all those type of companies, we have to think differently. We can't scale with the current capabilities. So for us, we've spent a lot of time actually strategizing how do we scale these things, because we can't hire enough people. I mean, we are around 100, 120 people right now, and it's taken us 2 years to hire these people. And we spend a lot of money on headhunters and interviewing. If we were to scale globally with everything we want to do, we need to be 1,500, 2,000 people. It's just not feasible. So in our opinion, humble opinion, I would say what we have done is proven the value, use case by use case. And now to reach the next level, we need to industrialize even more and scale AI across H&M. So in order for us to do that, we need to make AI available across the group for everyone. Our role in AI needs to be a lot more about scalability and specialization. Today, when you have a team working on demand forecasting, they are going to do that for that specific product or use case. But on the other hand, you're going to have a team doing very similar tasks, working on a similar topic. We can't have that. If we need to have the best specialists in the world, we need them to work together. So we need to identify what the shared capabilities are in there and get the specialists in and create these type of setups instead. We want to continue building world-class AI products, engines, and core components. So for us, AI will take a next step. So we're entering into a product organization now, which means we're creating more independent and agile teams, 10 people approximately, that will focus on core topics, where we in AI Foundation will be more about ideation and incubation of value-focused AI products. We will create foundational teams to facilitate the scaling of AI capabilities. That means that we will have platform teams. Just as Google has, we need a platform for deploying these capabilities. We need reusable components from a technical part of things. If we want to test the things we're doing in production, we need a framework for A/B testing or multivariate bandit setups. We can't have every team reinventing that. If we want to be able to track and store hyperparameters and versions, we need a central way of doing that as well. And if we want to continuously monitoring things that happens when models are in production and working on software and customers, we need a way of tracking that as well. So for us, it's much more about these foundational capabilities. We also need to facilitate the use of ML engines to support AI-based product teams. What does an engine entitle? For instance, a recommendation engine. What we have done now is gone from channel focus engines or recommendations into central recommendation capabilities that's being reused either if you're using the app, online, email channels, or in the future, even when you're interacting immediately with us. So we need to see what are the central capabilities that we want everybody to be able to use. And what we have done that is pinpoint these very foundational teams and the capabilities, so we actually can focus down and ensure that we are enabling everyone in our domains. This basically means we need to be much better on knowledge capture and management. We need to be the go-to place for training and development. We need to be better on portfolio prioritization and management, both from what use cases and products we want to launch into how we actually launch them when it comes to value and feasibility. Exploration and research on the ideation and incubation part of things. Ecosystem and vendor management. How do we interact and work with the people that are not in our company? Which partners should we choose? We will support with that. We need to focus a lot more on the infrastructure part of things and making sure that data scientists get to work with proper tooling. Expertise in guilds, risk and ethics, quality assurance of the things that we produce. How can you trust the black box model? What's the type of framework you deploy for using that things? And then special ways of working when it comes to AI. In research, for instance, that we want to keep close to, it's very hard to pinpoint that down into an agile delivery in 2 weeks. But we want to be able to make sure that you actually can do that in a proper way. So you facilitate all sides of AI development. So what we basically have done is started launching these capabilities into product teams and roles. What we see that there are some foundational building blocks. There are focus on knowledge and expertise, steering and governance and methodology. And basically everything you saw on the previous page when it comes to knowledge capture management. We are now launching a team called Knowledge Capture and Management, which will actually facilitate this. And I mean, when you are our size, you're going to have 100 people running in different directions. And you're going to have them reading the same articles, and you're going to have them working on the same problems independently, because it's very hard to coordinate when they are autonomous. So we are setting up a central way of actually capturing all of our knowledge. So people have a central place to go, read up on different algorithms, implementations, and toolings. We believe that this is central. Everything is around knowledge. But it's also about the type of courses you take and you want to share, the type of conferences you participate in, and the knowledge you gain. We need a central capability of actually facilitating these things. When it comes to data science dev tools and infra and quality assurance, we have also launched a product team called Data Science Dev Tools and Infra. Very logical name, but basically it's a platform team, as I've just mentioned. And platform teams is about creating these capabilities. We believe so much in the reusability aspect. If we want to go to market fast, we need to learn from what we have done. Example for that is we created some of the first use cases. It took us a year to launch them, which is a relatively long time if you have high ambitions. The next time we launched a use case, it took 5 months. And basically 50% of everything we did in the first use case, we could reuse. We had 50% of the code already written on how to interact with the data. We had a lot of the code already rewritten on the algorithm parts and the deployment part of things. And then we just needed to glue things together and start experimenting and building things out. So going from 1 year to 5 months of use cases with similar topics we're trying to solve is a major win. And if we can get that time even down to 2 months, imagine how many use cases we can start producing every year. So then we're scaling on another horizon. And then looking at the knowledge and expertise. So we have exploration, we have research, and we have expertise in guilds. In exploration and research, we have initially joined those two together. We want the exploratory part to be very close to the business value. We also want to stay very close to research. In the future, these are probably going to be 2 teams. But what we see now is if we can keep these things together, we can get research to be value focused. That's what we want to do, applied AI. And we can get exploration to be a little bit more bold and try new things. I'll get back to you at some point when we know how that pans out. But that's at least our hypothesis at the moment. Working with expertise in guilds, we then start different teams focus on these topics. So we're starting teams called demand forecasting that can create the baseline for demand forecasting for entire H&M group. We can call teams focused on recommendation engines. That's going to be the baseline for recommendation engine for the entire H&M group, which also means that then we can employ the real experts. You don't need to reinvent it over and over again. You can actually focus on what you're really good at and what you want to do. Portfolio prioritization and management is done by the leadership team at the moment. Ecosystem and vendor management is done by the leadership together with our AI experts. AI risk and ethics is in our responsible AI and data team. And then, of course, training and development. We have initiated a council by employees in our organization that's running it. An AI-specific agile way of working. We have employed coach competence for this. So, as I told you just briefly, we are part of a larger organization. We're a product organization. We have approximately 250 products that just been launched. We have no IT department any longer in H&M. The IT department, together with the business, forms our new organization called Business Tech, where everybody works in a product team. We are in the AI analytics and data, which consists of AI, data, platforms, and operations and ethical AI. In this, we have then focused on supply chain and pricing, customer AI, and technical enablers. I just wanted to give you an overview on how we have materialized our organizational setup based on our technical ambition that we want to achieve. And some of the things that I think is worth pointing out as well is that we want to create this next generation of platform. We want to make sure that the process I showed you earlier is consistently updated. So what we're working on is how do we scale these things? How do we scale these things up by taking downtime in development? So what we are constantly working on is our reference architecture when it comes to these things. which is everything from how do we have version control to our training data, our models? How do we work with versioning the ETL script? How do we create feature script construction pipelines, model versioning, software environment, infrastructure versioning? What kind of tools should we use in these things? And how do we track everything in the end? For us, it's about machine learning versioning, making sure we apply software engineering best practices to all of this.
Thanks.
And end of the day, it is not about pushing centrally. You need to use tool A or tool B. For us, it's about creating teams that can run as fast as possible and be as autonomous as possible as you can ever be. Everything I stand for and everything our organization stand for is speed and value. So what we rather do is create tooling and support the teams that work independently, where we say these are our principles. If you want our support and if you want to run as fast as possible, please adhere to them. This is the technology stack we are working on. If you want support and want to run fast, please adhere to it.
Okay.
At the end of the day, each member in our product teams are responsible for delivering AI in their constellation, but we will try to do it as fast as possible.
Speaking of as fast as possible,
yes.
Just to check, we're actually out of time just now. Is there much left in your presentation?
No. 2 more slides.
Okay, thank you very much, because we're into overtime now and we need to make a small speaker break.
I'll speed up. So our vision is really about reusable components, going from use case specific to reusable components across use cases and products. And as the final slide, I'll skip this, but I think you get the point. I just want to highlight, for us, AI is nothing without data. So behind every successful AI project, there's a successful data project. That's why I also want to give a big push to Project Yggdrasil that's democratizing data across H&M. And I think that was the final slide with a summary. Thank you so much for letting me go into overtime.
Don't worry. Thank you so much as well, Errol. I actually have a quick question for you coming back, if I may.
Yes.
You mentioned the increasing role of sustainability.
Yes.
Have you got a short answer now, but we can certainly follow up online and in other forums after, if you have more info on the focus for that. And indeed that points towards the lifestyle area. Obviously H&M is a retailer and a supply chain expert and data expert as well, increasingly so, as you say. But are there other directions for the AI competencies that you're developing outside of retail?
I'm not sure. Can you?
So obviously your business, your core business now is in the 5,026 stores.
Yes.
Have you, with all of this extra knowledge and data firepower, has the business got other ambitions to branch into new areas? You know, not to compare you to Amazon, but Amazon will try to do the same thing with elastic data, shall we say. They look for patterns and try and replicate them in different businesses.
Yeah, I think what you will see, without giving away too much, is that H&M, we know what we're good at, and that's the supply chain, and it's about scaling. I think in the future, we have also realized that we will not only work with the physical retail and digital. What we want to do is open up our ecosystem and give other smaller players access to our data and to the capabilities that we have created.
Yes, not unlike Ocado, not avocado, in the UK, which is a lot of companies are moving in the same space. Okay, I'm going to have to leave it at that for now, Errol, and I'm sorry we have to end right now. But by all means, I'm sure you don't mind if we follow with any questions over Twitter or other platforms if there's follow-up questions further from the group. Thank you very much, Errol Koolmeister from H&M.
Thank you.
Thank you.